Hey there, folks. This is Coach Rich. Welcome to my Ironman Santa Cruz 70.3 webinar. Um, Tonight, I'm going to talk about swim tips, bike course and tips, run course and tips. Um, what I won't discuss, however, are the detailed race execution stuff, which is covered in the race execution section of the wiki, specifically in the half Ironman how to. Okay, so the assumption that we've made is that you guys are all dialed in to pacing with heart rate, pacing with power, pace, half Ironman, fueling, all that jazz. So that tonight we can talk specifically about applying those skills to the Ironman Santa Cruz course. All right. With regards to the swim, um, to be quite honest, I haven't seen this course. I don't really know much about it other than what I've seen from some race reports and looking at profiles of the bike course and the run course, and I've got a pretty good handle on how to look, quickly at a bike course or run course profile and know how to race it or know what the potential pitfalls are. But your best resource, where did the swim course go? Your best resource for how the swim works with regards to wave starts and times and things like that is the athlete's guide. And I'd also do some research on what the deal is with this beach. How wide is it? What does the current look like, etc. Okay, but my race execution guidance for all Ironman swims, half and full, is again only swim as fast as your ability to maintain form. As soon as you start to feel your form go, then slow down. Okay, but unfortunately, I don't know anything about what currents to expect, water temperature, waves, how crowded the swim is, things like that. All right. Um, okay, this is how I look at all half Ironman and Ironman bike courses. What makes bike courses difficult is not so much about uh, terrain, or rather, it's not so much about gain or winds or tailwinds or heat or altitude. It's much more about is the a terrain such that forces you to make a lot of choices. Um, and then so a a course that has a lot of short hills is more dangerous than a course that has a couple big climbs, because a couple big climbs, it's easy to wrap your head around how do I get up this long climb. But if the course is constantly forcing you to make choices with regards to gearing, effort, do I stand, do I sit, do I shift, do I not shift, that course is more difficult. Okay. Then I ask myself, and then there are disconnects on the bike course, internal and external. Internal, out of T1, it feels like you're riding easy. Your heart rate says that you're riding easy, but your power says that you're not riding easy. So internally, you're confused, and the net is it's very easy for you to ride too hard in about the first 30 minutes of the half Ironman bike. Externally, what's going on is everyone else around you has this same internal disconnect going on. So they're riding much too hard, and you're getting all this external feedback that apparently everyone needs to be riding, faster than 22 or 24. All right. So inside the first 30 minutes of the half Ironman bike, you're getting there's a lot of internal confusion about how hard you're actually working, and you're getting a lot of external feedback that you should be working much, much too hard than you actually should. And so then I look at what is the terrain doing inside that first 30 to 45 minutes? Is it terrain on which it's it's easy to make poor choices? And is it a terrain that when you make those poor choices, it's on terrain that is very costly, meaning it's difficult to rein yourself in inside the first 45 minutes of the bike, and there's lots of hard climbs inside that first 45 minutes, and therefore when people are screwing up, they'll be screwing up on terrain where they're throwing out massive watts, for example. Okay. And the net is, I always want you to focus on terrain focused execution, which is you're not really thinking about, I'm at mile 30 and therefore I need to be riding with my mile 30 hat, but rather you're looking at the terrain that's in front of you, and you're asking how do I ride this hill? That's, how do I execute the 30 seconds of road that I see in front of my nose, with regards to uphills, downhill, headwind, tailwind, crosswind, heat, etc. All right. So you're always focused on what the terrain is doing. So let's talk about terrain that you need to have your head about you. Let's talk about hills. You're going to split the hill up into 4 parts: the entrance, the climb, the crest, and the downhill. At the entrance, you're on the flats. You're coming up to a hill. As the road goes up, I want you to do a couple things. First is you take your head, put it on your feet, paying attention to your pedal pressure and your cadence. I want you to downshift quickly. Downshift quickly in the gears, maintaining that on the flats pedal pressure and that on the flats cadence. And what you're doing here is you're using pedal pressure and cadence to avoid spiking your watts at the bottom of the climb. The second thing is I want you to watch everyone else around you. They will not be doing this, and they will be gapping you by 2, 3, 5, 6 bike lengths at the start of a climb. That's a good thing. Okay. On the climb, I downshift, downshift, downshift. I'm out of gears, and now I'm climbing up the hill. And the answer to how hard should I be climbing this hill is framed inside the context of I still have to ride a 56-mile bike after having swum 1.2 miles and before running a half marathon. And when you frame the question like that, the answer is one, probably easier than, or certainly much easier than you could ride, and certainly much easier than it feels like you should be. But 2, you want to make sure that you have a lot of people pass you on these climbs, frankly, because they will absolutely be working too hard. Especially, you should gain confidence from seeing athletes who are bigger than you climbing faster than you, because that's a sure sign that they are working much harder than they should be. As you start to reach the crest, your bike starts to accelerate and your cadence starts to increase. You take your head, put it on your feet, paying attention to your climbing pedal pressure and your climbing cadence. I want you to extend, or you're going to upshift quickly in the gears, taking that climbing effort, extending it across the crest into the downhill, and you're only going to coast when you're going above about 35. Okay, all you're doing here is you're taking this climbing effort and you're staying on it you're staying on this effort across the crest until you get up to 35 miles per hour. Then you coast. Okay. Throughout all this, you're always thinking conservation of momentum. I just did all this work lifting the mass of my bike and my body, top of this hill. I want to keep it rolling because downhill speed creates speed on the flats that helps me get up the next hill and the next hill and the next hill. Don't do what everyone else does at the crest, which is instantly shut it down and start coasting within feet of the crest. They're giving up all this speed opportunity on the downhill, which again, you carry across the flat and into the subsequent hills. Let's talk about winds. Um, Hills all end. You always eventually get to the top of whatever hill that you're on. So if you're riding a hill too hard, that that too hard is only going to last for so long before you're no longer going up the hill. Okay. Um, uh, but winds, if a headwind could last for 5 minutes or it could last for 55 minutes. So if you ride a little bit too hard into a headwind for 35 minutes, that's a huge pacing error. Okay. So the net is, I want you to ignore headwinds and tailwinds with regards to pacing, meaning you don't ride a little bit harder into a headwind and you don't ride any easier with a tailwind. You ignore winds. Crosswinds, if you find yourself wanting to come up in the hoods, I want you to still stay low and hide from the crosswind. Okay, so what you don't want to do is I'm in the aero bars. I'm getting lots of crosswinds. I feel kind of um, sketchy. So I'm going to go um, up to my hoods, but I'm going to totally sit up and present a huge sail to the wind. I want you to always think hide and stay low. And then finally, if you find yourself in a windy situation on a climb, I want you to think airspeed versus ground speed. What this means is all of us, when the road is going up and we look down and we see that we're going, 9 or 12, we automatically want to come up in the hoods because we're climbing and we're going slow. But if you're doing that into a decent headwind, you're while your ground speed might be 12, your airspeed might actually be 25. So always be thinking airspeed versus ground speed when you find yourself climbing with a wind into a wind. So let's look at the Ironman Santa Cruz bike course. And again, this this is how I look at bike courses, which is um, everyone rides too hard in about the first 15 miles of the half Ironman bike. So I'm looking at this a terrain, and I ask myself, is this a terrain on which it's easy to make pacing errors? The difficulty of looking at bike courses which are drawn on GPS software is you don't know if, well, these are all little bumps, but oftentimes the actual terrain looks different from this in that it might not be as lumpy as this is in real life. But what I'm also seeing is this could potentially be little rollers, little hills that that tempt you to not shift, that tempt you to not bother, like as soon as you're going up, you're going down again, and you get this rhythm, and it's almost like you can reach up, reach out and touch the top of the hill. Therefore, I can't be bothering to shift, even though I need to. Um, um, I can't be bothered to shift, even though I know I need to. I can't be bothered to uh, shift into my small ring. I'm just going to stand here. I can pop up this thing. That's potentially what I see inside this first 15 miles. Okay. Then how everyone rides is after about mile 15, from mile 15 of a half Ironman bike through about mile 40 to 42, athletes are typically riding too hard, but they're not feeling it yet. Okay. But then if you've been pacing your bike incorrectly, you will definitely start to feel it after mile 42-ish. So then I ask myself, if an athlete has been screwing up their bike up until mile 42, what does the terrain look like after mile 42, and are they going to pay for it on steep climbs, steep grades, etc.? And what I'm seeing here is, it's up, it's down, it's up, it's down, and that is really the nature of any rides that happen on the coast. Because if you look at the coast, you see all these little creeks coming down here. Okay, everywhere you see a creek coming down, this will be going down and then coming up, going down and coming up, right? So the way that the California coast works is the higher elevations are up here. There's creeks coming down, and those creeks have created little canyons, and everywhere there is a creek, there is a downhill that goes to it, and a little bridge, and then a climb out of it, and then a downhill and a climb out of it. Okay, so it's very sawtooth-ish. All right. How I want you guys to ride is you're going to be riding easy, doing the opposite of everyone else. You're getting your heart rate down, you're getting a head start on your hydration, and you are making sure that lots of people are passing you, and you're warming up through about mile 10. Okay. Then from miles 10 through about 40, you have your Endurance Nation race execution ninja hat on, where you're climbing all these hills exactly how I told you to. Okay. You're paying attention to cadence, pedal pressure. You're going up the climb at a smart effort. You're extending that effort across the crest into the downhill, and you're only coasting when you get above about 35. Okay, so you've got your terrain focused execution, race execution ninja hat on through all this, and then from mile 40 through 56, this is your strong zone, where you're not really riding any different, but you have a lot of confidence. You've been saving for this. You're pushing the effort a little bit. You're not necessarily trying to make anything happen, but you're definitely riding stronger while everyone else around you is fading, and you should be passing lots of people here. All right. So in summary, it's not so much about breaking the course up into, watch out for this hill and that hill. It's about managing the terrain that you see right in front of you, terrain focused execution, and dividing the course up into, I am warming up for about 10 miles. Then I'm racing like a ninja, and I'm executing the hills and terrain and the headwinds and tailwinds I see in front of me through mile 40, or call it, I got this downhill, then I pop back up from like mile 41 to 56. This is my strong zone. Another consideration when you're riding on the coast is because you're going one direction for a long time each way, and you're on the coast, it doesn't take much of a change in the wind. So you can see how if if the wind is blowing like this, it's a head crosswind from about 10 o'clock, right? All it has to do is shift down here, and now it's a straight cross, or shift here, and now it's a cross tail from about 8 o'clock. Okay, so the net is really pay attention to what the winds are doing, understanding that it doesn't take much of a change in wind direction for you to go from a head cross to a straight cross to a tail cross. Okay, and the fact that pretty much all this bike is on the coast means that winds could potentially be just as big or a bigger consideration than the sawtooth nature of any riding that is typically on the California coast. All right. It's a shame they don't take you guys up Bonnie Doon. This is a beautiful road. The Tour of California has done this route several times, so I've ridden this a few times. But this whole Bonnie Doon, Scotts Valley area is just awesome. It's like coastal rainforest, ferns. It's just beautiful. It's my little sidebar. Next, let's talk about half Ironman run pacing. Again, disconnects internal and external that happen inside about the first 3 miles. Internally, it feels like you're running easy. Your heart rate says that you're running easy, but you look at your pace and you're not running easy. Externally, everyone else around you has the same thing going on, and the net is that everyone around you is running much harder than they should be. So we split the half Ironman run into 0 to 3, 4 to 10, 10 to 13. Okay, miles 0 to 3, you're running at slower than your goal pace, and you're running a few ticks. Your heart rate is a few ticks lower than your goal heart rate, and your average heart rate from your bike ride is a good starting point inside this first 3 miles. So if your average heart rate on the bike has been 150, for example, you should probably be running these first 3 miles at an average heart rate of about 150. It should definitely feel like you're holding something back, like maybe 15 seconds, maybe 20 seconds per mile. Okay. Miles 4 through 10, you're running at your goal pace and your goal heart rate zone. So if your Ironman, if your zone 3 on the run heart rate is 155 or 160, and comparing that against your average heart rate from the bike, which was 150, you want to go from a 150 heart rate to a 155 heart rate. You'll start to see it creep up in, towards 160, but maybe you have a heart rate ceiling that you don't let yourself go above, which I would call, that high zone 1, very, very low zone 4 heart rate. I would not want to see my heart rate go above that before mile 10. But then after mile 10, you bring it home strong. You start using heart rate and pace more as whips, vice governors. So let's look at the run course. And similar to the bike, I'm asking myself, what does the terrain do inside the first 3 miles when everyone tends to run too hard? This is a nice little pop here, but it doesn't look too bad. Then I ask myself, what is the terrain like in after miles 10 through 13, when I really want to be pushing my pace. What does the terrain look like? And fortunately, it looks like some downhill, flat, a nice little pop, which might hurt, because it's so close. And I think I've read somewhere that this is a run on the beach in the sand towards the finish, which does not sound like fun. Um, but again, I actually haven't seen this course. I've always wanted to race it. I've heard great things about it, but it's always been the same weekend as Ironman Wisconsin, which is kind of my bag. I've been going up to the race or racing it every year since 2002. So, um, and 500 feet elevation gain in a half marathon is not that bad. I would characterize that as just a run, not a particularly hilly, but I mean it is just a run. It's not dead flat, but it's not epically hilly, epic climbs. So that's that's what I have for the formal presentation. So if you have any questions for me, please go ahead and ask them, and I'll hit you right back. Any questions? What about the sharks? Are there sharks, Jen? I got to worry about snakes in the lake at Ironman Lake Placid, but I've heard they put alligators in the lake to eat the sharks that or the snakes that have been put in there to eat the the grass that's in the lake. Um, any real questions? Okay, folks. Looks like a quiet night here. I'm going to get this processed, and I'll have it. It'll go out automatically via email tomorrow. Brenda will put it up in the forums and on the Ironman Santa Cruz page. Okay, folks. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you online and in the forums. Bye.